Okay, I am back to talk about pack film. A lot of people call it peel apart film, Polaroid. You may not be familiar with it, or you may have heard they stopped making it, which they did. Polaroid did quite some time ago. Fuji was still making it up until a year or so ago. It was selling for 10 to 15 bucks a pack when it was still being made. Now it's selling for 40 and up, and that sounds like a hell of a lot of money, and it is. But you got to keep in mind there are 10 shots. Once you take one of these pictures and peel apart, you're going to go, oh my God, believe me. And you also you end up with a negative, which I'll cover. You can do what's called bleach bypass, and you end up with a negative that's way larger than even a 6x9. So yeah, you can still get the film. There is a kickstart on that the same guy that started Impossible Project, which is now called Polaroid Originals. Doc has started a Kickstarter with Super Sense. They're hand making packs that only have like one shot a pack. How they're doing it now because they're doing it by hand, but it is at least a start, which is a good thing. Because pack film is incredible. It's what Andy Warhol used to do Blondie and all that. Yeah, so let's get to the camera. I'm going to cover the Polaroid 100, which automatic, which this is not. This is a Polaroid 185. Just want to use it for my opening shot. I will be doing a showing you this 180 along with my 195 in this case here that they specially made for the 180 for this camera. The 180 and 195 are full aperture and speed control. It was the professional camera. But I'm going to be covering a camera you might want to get if you are just starting, don't want to spend a lot of money. They made a lot of these, and they made them through the years, different models. This is the Model 100. Came out in 1963, I think, for something like $165, which is like $1,350 in today's money. So it sold for a lot of money back then, and there's a reason why. They pulled all the, didn't pull any of the punches, I should say. When they made this camera, it's all metal. When you get it on eBay, it should have the cover like this. The cover should be in good shape. They made a lot of these, so try and look for a clean one. I mean, you can find these $10, $15, $30. A lot of times they'll have all the different close-up lenses, which I'll cover in a minute. But yeah, so this is the little cover. It just flops down. You can actually keep this on even while you're shooting. There's a little magnet here that locks up on the top. And to open the camera, you flick up the viewfinder, and sometimes it'll spring open itself if it has a strong spring. But again, you got to remember how old this camera is. It's amazing that it still works, which I'll get into. Well, we'll go ahead and discuss it right now. It has a 114 millimeter lens, 3-element glass. Later on, they made some of the cheaper models with plastic bodies and plastic lenses, but this was all glass. It's f8.8. It shot electronic shutter from, I think, let's see, I have it written down, let's see, yeah, 10 seconds to 1/1200th, which they needed because this would also shoot 3000 speed, which Fuji, again, and Polaroid made up until a few years ago. The 3000 speed, it's black and white by Fuji. It's going to go, it's like 65 bucks a pack now. But it's, crazy ASA. Anyway, it had electronic shutter even in 63, which is crazy. And it had a viewfinder, rangefinder. When you look through this guy, as you focus in and out, there's a one window here for focusing and another for composing the shot. And as you move back and forth, the lines inside actually go up and down to compensate for the whether someone's close or not, the parallax as it's called, I believe. Yeah, and later on they went to a Zeiss, which you didn't have two separate windows, and I'll talk about that in a second. So again, if you're on eBay, find one that's really clean. The bellows should all look nice. It shouldn't look like it has any rust anywhere. The lens, you want it clean. And another big part of these, since it does use batteries, it'll be good. You can see my little conversion just fell out. But you want to look at the battery compartment. Usually they'll have, this is what originally came in it. It's a funky 3.5 millimeter 3.5 volt battery. This is what came in this camera. This battery still works, but I went in and swapped it out because these batteries are, they cost a pretty penny, and you can't just go buy one at your 7-Eleven. So you can get on eBay. They sell these little guys here. I think they're all at 10 bucks, and it all clicks in. There's no soldering. It takes 3 AAAs, which equals 3.5 volts if you do your math. But you want that all to be clean when you buy it, because corrosion, maybe the camera won't even work. It'll help if they offer returns in case it doesn't. A lot of times on eBay they'll list as is. They'll say they don't know if it works. I would spend the extra money just to have someone tell you, yes, it is working. I do have film in this camera, so I'm not going to show you how it cocks and all that stuff. I'll bring up my 180, which at the moment does not have any film in it. Also, when you're buying a camera, hopefully they've shown you shots of the interior. You want to look at that and make sure it's all clean. I mean, usually it is, because for the majority of life, the back of the camera has been closed. Let me close this up real quick so you can see the... when you open it up, you want to make sure this lens back here, which is separate from the front, doesn't have any fungus. You want to make sure it's clear. The rollers, if they took care of them, these are called the rollers. They should all be looking good. This actually does come out. This is how you clean it. It gets a little gunk on the edges each time you put in film, and you want to clean that off. It's a little corrosive, so use a paper towel. But yeah, you want to make sure all that's clean on the one you get from eBay. And all these cameras work the same as far as just the basic using is you cock it here and you take the picture here. It's just that simple. Alright, cock, shoot. Now there are, this one, another video I'll cover, it's got apertures and everything, but for the 100, which, let's take the cover off. The 100 actually has what they call scene settings right here. And for each speed it shoots for, like, I think 4 different speeds: 75, 150, there's one in between 3000. I guess I could turn the wheel and see. 150, 400. I mean, that doesn't matter because the only film you can get is 100 or 3000. Alright, so, and what it's doing is it's changing the little aperture wheel when you're doing that each time. So I myself keep it set on 75. I think I have to go, I'll do that later, set it back to 75. And that lets you have 2 settings. One, it says for bright sun only, and the other one for bright sun or dull day. So it's, with 100 speed, it can handle the bright sun. When it was 3000, it was a chore for it, because lens was so bright they even gave you a little ND filter to put on the end. In addition, you can, for interior shots, it's 100 speed, so you're going, geez, I'm not going to take pictures at parties. It does have on the flash, a normal PC sync. You can use an electronic flash on it. It's made for a bulb, so the bulb would actually go off, take it a little second to go off, so the little sync sometimes can be off, but generally it can handle electronic flash. But what's even cooler is you can there's tons of these on eBay. It's called Polaroid Flash Gun 268. I mean, they made this flash for so many different models that you can get it for cheap. And so I'll show you how it goes on, if I can remember. I do use this. It's got a little handle up here. You put it on the front. And a lot of these cameras say, they even have a sticker up top here. It says, this is where the flash goes. But it's pretty simple. You just plug it in. If I'm plugging it in correctly, there you go. And the bulbs are M3, and again, you can get these for cheap. They go right in here. Pop this off. They just pop in there, and then you take the picture. It explodes. It's got a little button here. You hit for eject, and you got to be careful because that bulb is going to be steaming hot. But bulb will fly out, and this even rotates if you want to do a bounce flash. I mean, it's really cool. I just like using it just because, you know, it's kind of the way it was meant to be used. And they did come out with several other models after this, which were just like this. Each year they kind of went up in 100. So this was called the 100 Automatic. The next series they had was that was like this was the 240. Looked just like this. It's called the 240. I think maybe it had a timer on the back. There's a list called a LAN list that'll give you all that information. You don't need the timer anymore because the Fuji film stops automatically, so you don't really need that. They did go to a model which has just the single Zeiss, which is like this camera has the Zeiss. It just has the one viewfinder in the back. The 250 went to that particular viewfinder. A lot of people like it better. It is, you know, it's German made. I mean, this one works fine, but and then again they went up another 100 to the 250 became the 350. All right, and the 240, which is like this, was interestingly enough called the 355. So it has the same, again, the two viewfinder windows. I think they put some metal over this so it looked a little bit nicer. One thing you want to watch out for when you're using if you get the 250 or 350, instead of a mechanical timer, I don't have my 195 right in front of me, but there's either a mechanical timer, which you twist, or an electronic timer. And with the electronic timers that they have on like the 250 and 350, it makes the packed film, it takes up more space in the back here. So your packed film sometimes it's hard to pull out. They even have tricks with, you can use bobby pins trying to keep those springs different, because the Fuji packs are made out of plastic and the Polaroids were originally metal, so they don't quite get along all that well. So you might want to stick with either the 100, 240, or 355 so you don't have that problem. Oh, let me cover this. Also, almost forgot, you can get kits for this, and a lot of times the cameras will come with them. This is the Polaroid Close-Up Kit. This is a Polaroid Portrait Kit. And what they do is they have a lens that pops on the front. It'll look like this when you get it. It has a little lens here that plops on the front. Like so. Alright. And then they give you what are called goggles. And these actually go down over this guy. And what it allows is portrait will allow you to get a headshot. Like, you know, just head and shoulders, get right in there. The close-up, like I have on here now, will let you get crazy close, like just a few inches, like basically macro. And they do show you, usually come with instructions. They'll tell you about how you need to kind of compensate for it being closer as far as composition goes. But focus-wise, the goggle here fixes all that. This says right here what it is. It's a range 9 to 15 inches, and the portrait just says portrait. Oh, there it goes. 19 to 42 inches. 19 to 42 on the portrait, 9 to 15 on the close-up. And again, a lot of times when you get these cameras, it'll come with all these guys. They even give a little diffuser here for the flash, because obviously if you're going to use a flash, it's going to be super bright if you're closer. So that's pretty cool. This guy just goes right up here. And it should have all that stuff in there, the diffuser, the lens, the goggles. And I guess that's about it. Again, we'll be looking for it on eBay. A lot of times they'll come with the case too. And just have fun with, oh, real quickly, Bleach Bypass. You can Google this. This is what you end up with. Here's a picture I actually took with this camera. You can see that. All right, this here. And so I took that picture, and what you end up with is this peel part. It'll be all wet. You don't want to touch this part because it's kind of caustic. It'll burn your skin. But it does eventually dry, and then you do what's called a bleach bypass, where all this back stuff washes off, and you end up with a negative this huge where you can do enlargements. So it's really cool. I mean, that way it's almost like having a regular camera as well. You just don't have the one picture. You'll be able to make enlargements forever. Okay, that's it for now. Again, I'll be covering my next video the 180 and 195, which is the advanced version of this camera. And until then, see you later.